Alrighty, so we finally got Thonar's Relic, and I have to say I am very impressed with how this thing works so far. We literally just got the update yesterday, as of the time of recording this and everything. This will come out a little bit later, but yeah, to give a little bit of context, I have only ever done floors 1 and 2 of the dogs, and normally when I beat floor 2, it's using that sort of stally, like, king with like old school blue brawler bond team that sort of like lowers the enemy's attack related stats, so that way they end up patiencing you and everything. But there's a little bit of RNG, like with just making sure that you have the right cards and stuff like that. That can be a little bit of annoying. And honestly, I just kind of wanted to use like a normal sort of team. So we're not even using any of the Meliodases, which is kind of surprising, but I hopped in with Thonar, of course. She is running an attack crit resistance set, so that way I can actually do damage, and I was kind of surprised that even on floor 2 I was able to get some damage off using the ultimate removal card, which normally gets patienced on floor 2. But I was actually able to do that once I had her sort of attack related stats buff going, which was nice. But I'm running her Green Brunhild, of course, just because I opted for Green Brunhild because I didn't want to use the Scotty team, and the only reason I didn't, I would actually really like to run the Scotty team, but my Scotty's ult is only 1/6, meaning that Freyr's ult and stance removal and everything like that is probably the better option for me, because I have him at 4/6 and I also have Brunhild at 6/6, meaning that I can use her heal, her ultimate, I guess, to heal my team whenever I sort of, get low on health or right before I can finish off the floor, so that way I can go into the next floor with as much, HP as humanly possible. So, yeah, running obviously the new 1 Escanor Ultimate, because he is really good at getting a little bit of extra damage past the damage caps, so that is actually very helpful for just making sure that you take down, the enemies as quickly as possible, because not all moves are going to hit damage cap, of course, because the dogs are pretty tough. Like, these are some really hefty beasts, so that kind of is pretty crazy. And then Freyr on the end, of course, just basically for his ultimate. Like I said, he is only 4/6, he's not 6/6, so it definitely could be a little bit better, of course. I was hoping to try to get him topped off on the new Meliodas banner, but we actually didn't pull any copies of him. But he seems like a pretty common choice that people that the devs kind of put on quite a few banners, so I don't think I'll have any problems, trying to get him completely maxed out in the future. Hopefully, I guess crossing my fingers on that one. But yeah, let's get into the actual floors themselves, because I'm not an expert here, and I'll definitely try to do this a little bit more often each week, so that way I can actually make a full-on dog's guide now that we have the relic, and it's a lot easier. So yeah, let's do this. So you've been watching a little bit of floor 1 in the background. Honestly, the only things you really have to worry about with floor 1 is the last phase. Like, obviously the base mechanics and stuff like that are kind of the same. One dog is attacking you while the other dog is stancing and trying to protect the other dog. So with the white dog, he's obviously a little bit more tanky, so you want to hit him as much as possible and get him down. You can sort of take turn 1 as your sort of initial setup phase, get everything going, start steamrolling your passives and everything. Because Thonar's passive, or her Holy Relic, actually does increase HP related stats per skill use, any extra sort of ultimate removal cards, or if you end up using Freyr to take off stances or anything like that, you can kind of just use the Thonar cards to throw out and get her Holy Relic sort of started, which is really nice. Phase 2 is very simple as well. The Black Dog tends to be a little bit more of a debuffer, and he has some pretty harsh debuffs, so you kind of want to try to get through Phase 2 as quickly as possible if you can, but in floor 1 it's not nearly as bad. So yeah, the big mechanic here is in floor 3, where you fight both of the dogs in their big forms at the same time, of course, like every floor, but in floor 1, you have to kill both of the dogs in the same turn, or else the other dog that survives is basically going to steamroll you. Because once you kill one dog, the other one gets a massive increase in stats. So if you don't kill him, you're basically as good as dead. So the basic idea is you want to go in with as many AoEs as possible, or just try to make sure that you're sort of spacing out your damage, attacking the left one and the right one sort of simultaneously, but they have different damage caps. The white dog has a 20% damage cap, if I'm not mistaken, and then the black dog has a 30% damage cap, if I'm not mistaken. So I definitely had to reset a couple of times here, but after getting everything the way that I wanted it situated, I was able to sort of kill the dogs there. So worked out pretty nicely, actually. All right, so we're skipping a little bit into floor 2 here. Honestly, floor 1, 2, and 3 all have the same basic mechanics for the first 2 phases. Fight the white dog, don't let him get stances up. Obviously, as you go along, it gets a little bit harder. Floor 3 is definitely, I guess, the hardest one, just because they start putting on a lot of buffs that make them tank a lot more damage. But as far as floor 2 goes, once we get to the last phase here, it wasn't actually that bad. I didn't have to reset or anything crazy here. I actually got one of the better passives. I don't honestly know what any of them do, but all I know is that every single JP player that I've watched play the dogs always complains about the fist sort of passive, which is very, very annoying. But the basic mechanic for this one is you just want to try and make sure that you can kill the black dog ASAP in as few cards as you possibly can, because he has a lot of really annoying moves and debuffs that he can put on during this part that make it really bad and unbearable, and can completely ruin your run. But on top of that, you also have to worry about a built-in mechanic for both of the dogs, where basically if you attack a dog with 5 different cards, the dog is basically going to gain resurrection, which I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, the same resurrection that the new Light Elizabeth has. Light Elizabeth. You know which one I'm talking about. You played the game. Anyway, yeah, if you attack them 5 times, they gain resurrection, which basically means once you kill them, they're going to gain a bit of their HP back. So you can see I made sure to kill the black dog in one turn as fast as possible. I made sure to keep Freyr's ultimate and everything for that, like specifically, because you definitely don't want to deal with those debuffs. And then going into it after, I ended up popping the resurrection here on the white dog. Made sure to use Brunhild's ultimate to make sure I topped all of my characters off if possible, and then finished off the white dog pretty much no problem. So yeah, honestly, floor 2, I have to say, I think it ended up being the easiest out of all 3 of them for this run specifically, but obviously there's some RNG in place there with, you need to make sure that you've prepped a lot of your cards and stuff like that going into the last phase. If you pull really bad cards that are not going to be able to kill the dog in 5 turns, you're going to have to worry about the resurrection, yada, yada, yada. So let's hop into floor 3 here, and we'll talk about it a little bit, because it was a little bit more difficult. So hopping into floor 3, I actually had a pretty difficult time with this one specifically, and I think it's just because the dog ended up targeting Freyr quite a bit. Like, that was basically his main target, I guess, and I do have Tarmia Link, but it's on Thonar, because normally in my runs, she's the one that gets targeted. So he just ended up doing a lot of damage to Freyr overall, and ended up killing him twice, so that was not good. I definitely can't do this with a man down, especially on phase 1. So making sure that you sort of get your attack-related stats buff as quickly as possible. If you can use any extra, Thonar cards that you pull, it's going to obviously give you some HP-related stats, which means you should be able to lifesteal, which is really nice. The only reason that this run ended up working out is because I pulled an extra Thonar card here, so I get to use that, which gives me, I think at this point I had 20% HP-related stats, if they're not lowering me at all. I didn't really actually check my stats at all, but being able to use 2 of those cleave cards deals really good damage, and on top of that, I'm getting HP back for it. So that worked out really, really nicely. And in this run, he didn't actually get an ult off. In one of the previous attempts, he actually ulted, and it did a lot more damage than I was anticipating it to. So yeah, just kind of getting set up and everything for this first fight, or for this first phase, and then just kind of making sure everything is situated is obviously the goal. You can see it there at the top during this section right here. Once he puts up that the stance. The white dog actually has a really like big defense related stats buff, or I'm not sure if it's defense related stats or just defense, but either way it makes him really tanky, so you definitely want to use some either heavy hitting moves there, or if you have like a buffer mover or something like that on the team, like if you're using the Scotty team, it would work perfectly for that. But yeah, just being able to kind of get that white dog down is it's a little bit more difficult. I've attempted it a couple of times with previous teams, but never had too much luck on floor 3, so I'm really surprised at how smooth this went. Going into phase 2, you can see here I'm basically just going to try to use a whole bunch of Thonar cards to max out the HP related stats increase. On top of that, it's also giving each one of my characters an ultimate move gauge every time I use her cards, so that on top of it is super good, because if you pair that with the card set that you use for the dogs, once you have max ultimate move gauge, you actually are immune to freeze, which is one of the black dog's biggest downsides, is that like in this second phase, if you don't have max ultimate move gauge, a character at random is going to get frozen, because everybody gets a random sort of debuff. Like the debuffs are predetermined, but each character gets a different debuff, and it's random who gets what. So that can be really annoying. So making sure that you have max ultimate move gauge is definitely good, and then just trying to get rid of the rest of the dog here is really nice. I actually don't know specifically what the actual mechanics to floor 3 are, but I've always heard that it's just like, hey, make sure that you kill the black dog ASAP, and then once the black dog is down, you're basically good to go. Like, you're basically in the clear. Like, you just have to worry about whittling down the white dog at that point. There was no revive mechanics or anything like that, so that's really nice. So you can see here I killed the black dog, which was pretty good. I think I'm going into the second phase with Freyr's ultimate as well. Yeah, so we draw that. We actually draw Brunhild's ult too. So I'm not really worried about sort of holding the Brunhild ult or anything, because obviously there's no extra floor other than this. So we're just going to go in all 3 ults and then use the single target with Escanor to kill off the black dog here, which actually ends up working really good, because he has a 30% damage cap. I basically get through it just with that, and then we get a little bit of extra damage off to the white dog here, which ends up doing pretty well. I mean, I have to say this run went fantastically smooth, considering I've never even beaten floor 3 before this. So I don't know if I just got lucky with my passives, or I don't know, just lucky overall. Every once in a while, new content for like the the bird or the deer or something like that comes out, or like I'll try like a brand new team and just all of a sudden I have a really good run, and I'm like, hey, that was really good and easy, and then I try it again and get completely crapped on. So not sure. I'm gonna wait, and I'm gonna make a full guide on the dogs, of course, at some point, but I want to make sure that I'm just not having a fluke here, and I'm actually able to beat it consistently with the same team, and I know the mechanics and stuff like that. That way I can give you guys as clear of an explanation on it as possible. But yeah, I have to say, Thonar Relic, absolutely fantastic so far. Is super disappointing that you have to actually use dog mats to make it, but I guess that kind of sort of makes sense. But yeah, as long as you sort of like at least attempt the dogs each week and you can get those free mats, you should be able to get it in not too long of a time. But either way, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to subscribe if you want. And yeah, I will see you guys later. Hopefully I get some more runs in. I'll make a full guide for you guys. So yeah, see you then.